Another day, another incursion. How China is keeping Taiwan and its neighbours on the edge of their seats. Showing solidarity. Delegations from 3 Baltic states break bread with Taiwan. Who says video games are for kids? These Taiwanese seniors are giving the young'uns a run for their money. Landlord's worst friend. Why Taiwanese residents are pushing back against pet bans in apartment buildings. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. Chinese military planes flew into the southwestern corner of Taiwan's air defense zone on Sunday night. The Taiwanese defense minister says that the incursion is part of a larger plan to wear down Taiwan's defense forces, but that the country is able to respond. As security concerns mount over a possible conflict, neighbouring countries like Japan are preparing for the worst. Our reporter Jaime Ocon gives us an update of the situation.
In a show of force, China sent 27 planes into Taiwan's air defense identification zone on Sunday. Among them, advanced bombers, radar planes, and more than a dozen next-generation fighter jets. And for the first time, a Y-20 aerial refueling tanker, which has the ability to carry about 60 tons of petrol and refuel friendly planes in midair. This demonstrates China's advanced multi-role capabilities and indicates that there could be a structural change in deployments to the east. Such incursions into Taiwan's ADIZ are also worrying its neighbors. Just last week, Japan passed a supplementary spending bill dedicating $6.75 billion to defense, the highest amount ever for the country.
我が国の領土、領海、領空、そして国民の生命と財産を断固として守り抜く、我々に課せられた最も重大な責務です。我が国を取り巻く安全保障環境はこれまでにないスピードで大きな動きを見せています。
The mood is the same across the Pacific. A Pentagon white paper stated that China could have over 1,000 warheads by 2030. And advancements in hypersonic missiles are only increasing the concerns of an already nervous Biden administration. Retired Taiwanese Army General Richard Hu has seen firsthand how relations have evolved between Taiwan and China over the years, and urges both sides to lower their guards and let diplomacy prevail.
We need to pay attention to that the war is the continuation of politics in other kind. So actually, we still need to work on where if there's a chance to transform the ambience and also the atmosphere between mainland China and Taiwan. That will be a better way instead of focusing only on military tools.
Analysts fear that a war in Asia would be a crisis for more than just the region, and has the potential to shift the global world order. Kama Xu and Jaime Ocon for TaiwanPlus.
We are here to express solidarity with you. Those are the words from the leader of the Baltic delegation to Taiwan's President Tsai. The group of lawmakers from Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia are in the country for an 8-day trip. They will be participating in a democracy forum at the end of this week. James Chater has the details.
It's becoming a familiar sight. President Tsai welcomes an overseas delegation, and this time from Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia. The 10 lawmakers from the 3 Baltic states arrived in Taiwan on Sunday. Later this week, they will attend the Open Parliament Forum, a conference on promoting democracy. During their 8-day visit, they will also meet other senior Taiwanese officials.
我们和渤海三国都走过威权统治、争取自由的道路，也都深刻地了解民主的得来不易。现在，全球面对威权主义的扩张以及假讯息的威胁，台湾愿意跟欧洲朋友分享对抗假讯息的经验，一起捍卫共享的价值，确保民主自由的生活方式。
Matas Maldakis, who leads the Taiwan Friendship Group within Lithuania's parliament, said the group's visit demonstrates solidarity with Taiwan.
Lithuanian government policy toward Taiwan has a wide support in our society. Preserving freedom and rule-based international order is in vital interest for both Taiwan and Lithuania. We must strengthen our ties and work together for this aim.
The visit comes after Taiwan earlier this month set up its representative office in Lithuania's capital, the first in Europe to include the word Taiwanese in its title. Beijing responded to the move by downgrading its diplomatic relationship with Vilnius. And on Sunday, China's foreign ministry warned of further consequences for this visit. But Lithuanian lawmakers in the delegation appear unfazed by the threats. Speaking shortly after arriving in Taipei's international airport, Davile Shekelina, who was sanctioned by China in March this year, joked that others could soon join her on China's blacklist.
We really know what it means to be a neighbor of a large, authoritarian, bloody regime. So it's my honor. I wore it as an honor badge, being blacklisted by China. And we are joking that maybe after this trip, the list will expand and more Lithuanian parliamentarians will wear this badge of honor.
An increasing number of European politicians have visited Taiwan in recent months after the European Parliament passed a landmark report calling for warmer ties with Taiwan. Earlier this month, the first official European Parliament delegation visited the country. The leader of that group, the French MEP Raphael Glucksmann, said visiting Taiwan should not be seen as a provocation. And analysts say more visits should be expected.
The game is very clear. We are going to spend next decades fighting over or fighting against the Chinese Communist Party, which is pressuring every liberal democracy in the world. So it makes perfect sense to unite. And when parliamentarians are making their trips, it usually opens the door for further political and national security discussion.
The Baltic representatives will be joined by delegates from Belize and Mexico for the Democracy Forum later this week. Chris Marr and James Chater for TaiwanPlus.
Leftist candidate Xiomara Castro of the Liberty and Refoundation Party has a commanding lead in the Honduran presidential election. With about 40% of the vote counted, Castro is ahead of her main opponent, Nasri Asfura of the Honduran National Party, by almost 20%. The results of the election are being keenly watched in Taiwan. Castro pledged in her election manifesto that she would seek to establish formal ties with Beijing if she wins. Honduras is currently one of Taiwan's 15 remaining formal diplomatic allies. And with Taiwan at risk of losing another ally in Honduras, I spoke to Rashid Griffith, Senior Fellow at the Inter-American Dialogue, based in Panama, about Taiwan's diplomatic relations.
Taiwan has a problem where Taiwan needs to have allies to substantiate its interpretation of one China policy and also to fight for Taiwan on multilateral and international platforms. So, for example, one thing you saw quite clear in the last year over the pandemic period, Taiwan and its allies were very vocal on Taiwan entering WHO and trying to help adjust world policy into pandemic treatment. If Taiwan had no allies, the multilateral platform for Taiwan almost become useless. So when you have it as any small country, one of their best things is multilateral system like UN, WHO, in the case of the OAS in the Latin America area. But if Taiwan has no allies, that's a problem.
Is there any tension between sort of having allies like Nicaragua, which has a questionable human rights record? Is there a tension there for Taiwan?
There's a tension, and that tension is perhaps intractable. So not only Nicaragua, even Honduras, even Eswatini, even, for example, Haiti, which could be argued is not currently a real state in a very robust way, given the issues in that country. Taiwan does, again, have a very tricky game to play, where there are countries that have these human rights problems, and Taiwan tries to be a very robust democracy. You mentioned Nicaragua. I mean, for example, again, back in St. Vincent, Grenadines, and Caribbean, the Prime Minister of St. Vincent, his autobiography is called Making of the Comrade, and he's a very, very strong supporter of Castro and the Cuban Revolution, even during the riots last year or this year, for example. But again, he is still lauded by the US and Taiwan as a strong supporter of democratic values. So in those instances, it is tricky for Taiwan to say it's only about democratic allies, also on the US side as well. But you can't just, give up on these allies because it is so important to have this multilateral persuasion in the global marketplace of diplomacy.
Countries around the world are taking precautions against the latest coronavirus variant named Omicron. Japan has joined Israel in suspending arrivals of nearly all foreigners. Taiwan's added 4 more African countries to its high-risk list, requiring quarantine in government facilities. But the WHO has warned against hastily imposing travel restrictions. Rick Glowett has this report.
The Czech president appoints his prime minister from inside a glass bubble after contracting COVID. It is a bizarre scene, but a testament to the 2 years of learning to live with the coronavirus. On Monday, the world wakes up to yet another grim reality. Border closures, lockdowns, masks and vaccinations are set to continue into 2022, with the dangerous new variant dubbed Omicron. The WHO warns that Omicron has several mutations and says there is evidence that there is an increased risk of reinfection. It also casts a doubt over the effectiveness of existing vaccines.
This is a dangerous-looking virus, but I think we have many tools in our armamentarium now to be able to fight it, so I'm optimistic. If we have to make a brand new vaccine, I think that's going to be early 2022, before that's really going to be available in large quantities.
Omicron first surfaced in South Africa, but has already been detected as far away as Canada, the Netherlands, and Hong Kong. And just as the world was starting to open up, countries are slamming the doors shut on Omicron by restricting travel from the southern African region. Israel is imposing some of the world's toughest restrictions. It's sealed its borders to all foreigners.
We call upon these countries that have imposed travel bans on our country and our other southern African sister countries to immediately and urgently reverse their decisions and lift the bans they have imposed before any further damage is done on our economies and to the livelihoods of our people.
Taiwan has yet to tighten restrictions, but there are already concerns that quarantine facilities could become overwhelmed ahead of the crucial Lunar New Year holiday.
到目前没有特别紧缩的计划，我们现在是没有直飞的班机了那不过有进入高风险的国家就回归14天的一个集中检疫。
Visitors from other countries will have to undergo a 2-week quarantine. And from the minister, an urgent call for the rest of Taiwan's population to get vaccinated.
15岁以上，我们现在还不足，现在是风险最高的，相对染疫的之后。那我们的第5类大概不够前3类慢慢好。
Researchers say there is still much to be learned about the variant, but the calls for global vaccination are loud.
The emergence of the Omicron variant should be a wake-up call to the world that vaccine inequality cannot be allowed to continue. Until everyone is vaccinated, everyone will continue to be at risk.
The emergence of the new variant has brought up another thorny issue for the WHO: what to name these new iterations. The WHO has been assigning Greek letters to the most prevalent coronavirus variants, but says they're skipping the 2 next letters, nu and Tsai, as one sounds too much like new and the other has the same spelling as a common surname. But what may have escaped their attention is that Omicron is already the name of an obscure cryptocurrency. Its value has soared in recent days, and many are hoping it's not a sign of things to come with the virus. Klein Wang and Rick Glowett for TaiwanPlus.
To discuss the potential dangers of the new COVID-19 variant, as well as how to best manage the threat it poses, I spoke with Dr. Shi Xinru, Director of the Research Center for Emerging Viral Infections at Taiwan's Tangong University.
We haven't known it's really the most infectious virus or not, because no scientific data so far to compare side by side with Delta virus or Alpha virus or other viruses in laboratory. So I think speculation only based on some epidemiological data.
So the fact that it apparently has double the number of mutations as Delta, is this something that means that it's more infectious?
It got a chance because many mutations means more ability for spreading or binding to a receptor or escaped the existing antibody or antivirus. But the thing is, it's hard to say how many mutations, how many spots will convert such kind of virus become more infectious. So I still feel it's too early to say so.
Every time a new variant comes out, and of course we have this issue of people saying that vaccine inequity is actually at the root of these dangerous variants emerging. How much of that is true, and how much is it that viruses will always mutate?
Because vaccine is, I would say, the only weapon to terminate the pandemic. But the thing is, in the beginning, we are short of vaccine, and some countries are, I think they are rich, so they probably can have the third shot, the fourth shot, or more booster. But for the poor countries, even the first shot, they got a problem, right? So I think the inequality for vaccine distribution definitely is issue. And the thing is, such as South Africa, some people got vaccine, but only very, very few people got vaccinated, we know. So the virus is still spreading, still mutate. And the thing is, the mutated virus, such as the Omicron, the new variant, will threaten the rich countries too. So I think the pandemic, we over in one family, on Earth, right, on the Earth. So I think we should think about how to distribute vaccine.
Coming up, an in-depth look at the illegal trade of endangered shark fins in Taiwan. Details after the break.
Today, 台湾人要了解的是，我们跟这片土地关系里面，它是跟你的生命的根源息息相关。像这个红坏、扁柏等等，他们都是台湾的神明。长期以来，我一直误以为我在抢救山林，直到最近10年来，我才了解，我从来没有抢救山林。而是山林从来在抢救我们。我们的地球46亿年来，我们就是它的一部分，它就是我们共同的灵魂，流传在我的血液中，也流动在树液当中。
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. A reminder of our top story. Chinese military planes flew into the southwestern corner of Taiwan's air defense zone on Sunday night as relations in the Taiwan Strait have fallen to their lowest point in decades. An undercover investigation has found evidence of shark fins from endangered species being traded in Taiwan. Taiwan's Dirty Secret by UK charity Shark Guardian draws from a 4-month-long field investigation of Taiwanese ports and companies. At the centre of the trade in Pingdong County's Dongam Harbour, they found fins arriving unattached from bodies in contravention of Taiwanese law. They were mixed with other fins to obscure their origins. Around 2 million sharks are killed every week, mostly for their fins. As a result, more than a third of shark species are now threatened with extinction. Of the Taiwanese firms visited by investigators, over half were found to be trading in fins from threatened species. Here's some footage from the undercover investigation. For more on this report, our reporter Ryan Kilpatrick spoke with Alex Hofford of Shark Guardian. He began by asking how illicit shark fin traders in Taiwan are getting away with it.
Taiwanese fishing vessels themselves and the fishing companies are reluctant to allow observers on their vessels, so there's very low observer coverage. There is probably organised crime involvement. There's a lot of bad stuff under the surface in the fishing industry in Taiwan, and we think that the Taiwanese government is pretty much turning a blind eye.
Are these shark fins that are being landed at Taiwanese ports also coming from Taiwanese fishing vessels?
Yes, that's right. So the fishing vessels that are named in the report are all Taiwanese vessels. But we don't know what's really going on at sea. We know that they go up and down the African coast. There's a lot of transshipping at sea. There's shark fins transshipped. They could be transshipped often several times at sea from one vessel to the next. It's not really clear what's going on. There's not a lot of transparency or traceability in the industries. But what we do know, Taiwan is it's certainly in the top 5 frozen shark importing countries in the world. They're sorted in the port there into different piles by brokers who then sell them to wholesalers. Some of those will end up in the domestic trade, but a lot of it will then be sent off to other hubs. So a lot of the trade actually does flow through Taiwan to Hong Kong and ultimately to markets in mainland China.
What do you think the government should be doing?
Shark fins are very difficult to identify, whether the species from an illegal species or a legal one. It's all mixed up and it's quite unclear. So the easiest thing for the Taiwanese government to do is to impose a blanket ban across the whole lot. That makes enforcement a lot easier. And it allows the stocks to recover as well. The general public is largely receptive to the idea of a shark fin ban. They know the messaging about how unsustainable the industry is, how cruel the industry is, and the public largely behind it. So the direction of travel is certainly towards banning this heinous trade.
Next time you see Grandad yelling at the screen, it might be because he's playing League of Legends. Here in Taiwan, a group of elderly gamers are joining millions of other players around the world. Pichi Zhuang reports on how a local charity is using esports for a creative new reason.
Team members working in perfect sync to eliminate the enemy. Their target? A heavily guarded fortress. It's a typical video game scenario, but the competitors are not who you might expect. This laser-focused group is made up of Taiwanese senior citizens. They're all participants in a project operated by Hongdao Senior Citizens Welfare Foundation. The charity has teamed up with 3 universities in Taiwan to train elderly people for esports competition.
以前是玩那个打电动，跟现在打电竞完全不一样。他也可以交到许多好朋友，对不对？也不错。
The oldest gamer, 74-year-old Liu Mengde, said he was already a veteran video game player and took part in the competition to meet new people. His teammate, Zhang Shuqin, was less experienced. She needed her daughter to stick directions on her keyboard and mouse to help her navigate the controls.
我电脑都不会。这几个月的当中，努力打仗学习。
And how's this for a high score? All 28 of the competitors are over the age of 65, with a combined age of almost 2,000. On November 28th, they traveled to the central city of Taichung to battle it out in the popular online game League of Legends.
我们年轻人可以电竞比赛，为什么我不行？我们鼓励他们的长辈们，一个梦要完成他的期望。
Hongdao says it organized the project to help elderly people stimulate their brains, socialize, and learn a new skill. If nothing else, it's a way to bridge the generation gap, proving once again that we are all young at heart. Alex Chen and Pichi Zhuang for TaiwanPlus.
They're many people's best friends, but pets can also be a source of neighbourly disputes. Some apartments in Taiwan are taking the draconian step of banning residents from owning an animal. It's something that animal protection groups say is unfairly infringing on people's rights. Our partners at Radio Taiwan International bring you this story.
Pets have become more and more popular in Taiwan. They're a lovable member of many families. But some of Taiwan's laws still don't take this into account. Ms. Lee moved into her apartment this year, and her landlord agreed to let her dog live with her. But after signing the lease, the apartment complex's management proposed a no-pet policy. Ms. Lee is worried that if they pass the policy, she won't be able to keep her dog. Animal protection groups and lawmakers say there are too many pet owners with the same dilemma. They say the no pets policy is unconstitutional as it restricts people's freedom and rights. They said rules for managing pets should be put forward instead of banning pets in the complex. Several lawmakers promised to support animal protection groups and to vie for a quick amendment to the law so that pets will be welcome in their homes.
Surf's up. Pups on paddleboards hit the waves in Brazil at the weekend. Dogs rode with their owners at the Surf Dog Festival held in the coastal city of Natal. They were scored on creativity and confidence on the board. Life vests were provided for beginners. The festival coordinator says such events showcase how humans and their pets can have an epic time at the beach. Thanks for watching TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. We leave you with pictures of Monkey Festival in central Thailand. For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, please download the TaiwanPlus app. Stay safe and see you next time.